Welcome to PhD with Woman on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Kristen Tippit. Topic: the ROI of running entrepreneurship. Episode 131 starts here. Let me remind you, this is an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical on the ROI of running entrepreneurship. First, let me mention some things that's been happening in the world of technology. Congratulations to the trailblazer in the fields of business, mathematics, and technology, CEO of STEMETS, Dr. Anne-Marie Infadion, for being appointed as the new Chancellor of Glasgow Caledonian University. Cheers to your new success, Dr. Rachel Coward, for successfully launching your book, The Psychologist of Pop Culture, The Witcher, on Amazon. If you want to learn more about the psychology of the characters and stories of the popular Netflix show, grab your copy here. We enclose the link. And congratulations to S&P Global Women's Team for winning against Team Mind Quad's Women's Team in Ishan Technologies for the Box Cricket League 2024 organized by Jessia. Cheers to all the winners. Finally, a word of applause to our great role model, Cindy Gallop, founder of Make No, Love Not Porn and former PhD guest, on her first ever equity crowdfunding campaign with We Founder. Let's all support her in this incredible journey in her sex education campaign. Here's to the future, Cindy. Now let's go back to our topic, the ROI of running entrepreneurship. Running becomes a revolutionary tool when you focus on its hidden return on investment, boosting your entrepreneurial journey. Join us as we dive into a riveting conversation with Kristen Tippit, the founder and CEO of RunROI. Discover how running can become a potent tool for cultivating creativity, self-trust, discipline, and breakthrough thinking in your entrepreneurial journey. Kristen, where in the world are you joining us from?
Hello, I am joining from St. Louis, Missouri, which, if you are not familiar with the United States, is in the middle of the country, sometimes called the armpit of the country.
The armpit of the country can be a great stepping block or starting block for running your company or running per se, because that's what you do. I'm joining from Warsaw in the middle of Poland in European Union as I'm heading towards to go back to Turks and Caicos. So I hope it's gonna be quick movement from today. It's gonna be definitely running ROI. So tell us, Kristen, why running can be used as a business tool for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So running is obviously movement, which is also just great in and of itself. You're outside, so you're getting access to nature and you're getting access to the outdoors. But a lot of things are happening when we're running, when we're moving in that way. Changes in our body, changes in our cells, and then also a lot of things happening in our brain. And so it's actually an awesome mindfulness practice, but it also allows you, especially as an entrepreneur who might be very busy, might be hustling a lot, it allows you time to focus on some personal and professional development. It allows you time to solve problems. It allows you time to be creative. And so a lot of things can happen when you go for a run. And when you do it consistently over and over, and you show up and you train for something, or you just even have a practice in this way, you can see huge benefits. And I call it the ROI. The ROI of running is enormous.
Okay, so let's start with a couple of pointers. It's actually, you just did a mic drop moment of, okay, how does it go really? Because apart from mindfulness, I can understand, I can actually, it's relatable in terms of listening to something while I'm running, but what are the concept of ROI?
Yeah. So, the return on investment. So anytime that you invest in something, whether that is your time or money or resources, you want to see a return and you want to see what will come out of it. And I think, we talk about this a lot in business because, there are different activities or different investments that we make in order to have the return we need in order to do whatever it is that we want to do. And so you hear that term a lot. And I thought it was appropriate for running because as I just recently went on a year-long journey of training in running to run 40 miles at the end of last year, I found that there was an enormous return on my investment in showing up to run. So I got a coach and she helped me, train for this long run that I was going to be doing at the end of the year. And every time that I committed and showed up for myself, I was building some really important qualities for myself that because of being human, we aren't siloed. So all of those qualities that I was building and that I was sort of honing became really important in work, in my professional life, in running a business, building a business, in my relationships with others, in my ability to network and show up for others and show up for my family. So for me, the ROI of running is far beyond business. But what I like to talk about is how it can be uniquely helpful for entrepreneurs because there is just so much that you can get from the activity and so much that you get from doing it intentionally and paying attention to what happens while you're doing it. So I actually created a form, like a tool, an accountability tool that you can fill out so that you are paying closer attention to the things that you're actually getting out of the experience.
No, I'm muted.
No, you were muted. Now you're not.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I was wondering what is this tool called and how it can help?
Yeah. So I just created a tool. Right now, it's just in a Google form, and I'm going to make it more accessible and hopefully create sort of an app around this. But it's a tool that you fill out after you're done with a run. And what it does is it rates like how you were feeling before you went, how you felt during it, and then what happened to you while you were running. So things like, did you solve a problem? Did you have a perspective change? Did you have an aha moment? Did you find yourself coming up with all these creative ideas, for something that you'd been thinking about? Or did you listen to a podcast or an audiobook and feel like you learned something new? Like you actually spent time developing yourself in some way, whether it was learning about a new idea or a new skill or a new, part of your industry. Because I think when we pay attention to those things, we're going to look for them a lot more often while we're doing it. So the idea behind it is when you're filling this out regularly, you're putting accountability behind the practice, but you're also then, paying closer attention to those things while you're doing the activity. You're looking for them. You're looking to feel creative. You're looking to be inspired or to have a perspective change or to solve a problem. And you're going to find what you're looking for, just like in life, right? Like you find whatever it is, whether that's something that you're looking for that maybe in a more negative way or something that you're looking for, something that you want to have happen.
Well, some people say that during sleep you find a lot of answers to your problems. So why not, for example, sleeping or meditating? Why do you believe running is much better opportunity to enhance your creativity?
Yeah, well, I think you should sleep and meditate too if you would like. Obviously, sleeping is super, super important, and actually, it's like when our bodies repair themselves. It's where we, get the ability for our brains to like to offload the information that we've received. It's incredibly imperative for life, but also to thrive in anything that you're doing. I think the thing about running for me is that, again, there's those other benefits. So, when you're doing meditation, which is an excellent practice, you're usually inside, you're usually, still, and you're getting a lot from it. From running, you are most likely, hopefully, outside. You might be on a trail. You might be next to a mountain. You might be next to a body of water. And all of those things, like, we know the benefits of nature in the outside world on our brains. There's been plenty of research on that. So that's just a big benefit in and of itself. And then I think the movement is also really key. So, we need to have times of rest. We also need to have times of movement. And the things that are going to make us the most productive and fulfilled are going to be having an equal balance of all of those things. So can you get the same thing from a different type of movement practice? Yeah, probably. I have chosen running because it has meant so much to me, and because I know what can happen to your body and your brain if you have a consistent practice in running. So that's kind of why I choose it. But all of the other things are important too. I also think that for some people, meditation comes harder to them. I am someone who has ADHD. My brain is always going. And though I have, worked at a meditation practice and can do that, movement is a way that I can still have some of that mindfulness, but also be moving. And so it allows me, a little bit of a different experience with that. So I think that's important too for people who are like, I just really can't meditate, or, this feels a little bit too hard. Like, getting out and moving and looking around and doing it that way is a different practice.
Absolutely. We have to run, pun intended. Some comments. Here is Amber Hollowell, who says, looking forward to this and so excited Kristen Tippit is sharing her story of running forward. So are we, Kristen? You've got a good group of supporters, and I've noticed that on your LinkedIn page as well. And so I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to focus your entrepreneurial journey around running?
Yeah, and I think it is. So what Amber was saying is beautiful, because we've talked about this before, but this idea, so she used running as a means to move towards something that she wanted to have happen. She was in a hard place in her life, and she took up running and was able to sort of work through a lot of the hard things that she was going through and run towards something better. And so I think that's like a big, huge benefit of, this idea of running and the movement piece of it and the running towards something. What I love is anytime we can think about something a little differently than maybe we've thought about it before. So, using something that maybe traditionally has been, you think of running as a sport, you think of it as some kind of fitness or weight loss program. I like to try and mix that up a little. So that's kind of my MO in general, is like, how can we take something that we thought we thought of one way and kind of reimagine it to be something a little bit different, or to be additive to the thing that, how we thought about it before. So yes, running is just great for your health. It is, it can help you with a lot of different like health issues you might be having. It's great for, keeping yourself in shape and all of those things. But it does so much for our mind. And so when I started to think about how much it had impacted my ability to show up in a professional way, I wanted to kind of take that spin, and I wanted to look at it a little differently. I wanted to say running, we know, is great as a sport and for, weight loss and fitness, but it's also great for entrepreneurs. It's also great for people who are building something, who have to constantly come up with new ideas, use creativity to solve problems. Also, because of the traits that I feel like it cultivates in discipline, in self-trust, in, the things that I've mentioned. So like those things are just so important in our resilience, our tenacity, the things that we have to really get better at because we are forging through and building something new. Generally that's the entrepreneurial journey, is like, I'm going to take this solution that I have, this skill set that I have, and I'm going to create something from it for others. And so all of that requires a lot of courage and bravery and tenacity and resilience. And I think, showing up in a running practice and working consistently towards something can help you build that. And then that transfers. Everything transfers. And that's the beautiful thing. So how can we take what we are building in one area and use it in our professional life?
I love it, especially the fact that sport has got so much to do with pushing yourself through the limit, because we believe that we can't do some things, but once we push ourselves to actually achieve something, the muscle hurts and so on, everything hurts, but the satisfaction is there. And it's exactly the same with entrepreneurship. Once you nail that contract, even though it was very difficult, you had to prepare a lot, and you felt, this imposter syndrome, it's not going to happen, but I just have to push, have to ask. That I believe is also a huge similarity. And of course, as you said, it doesn't have to be running. So if it's swimming, if you like walking, that's also part of tenacity and building this discipline, and pinning it down into your calendar, so it becomes just part of your entrepreneurial journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, one thing that can be beneficial, and it doesn't have to be running, but I do think it has to be an intentional decision to maybe work towards something. So, maybe you decide you want to be able to walk, 10 miles in a row, or maybe you want to be able to swim a certain distance, or maybe you want to try like a mini triathlon, or, whatever it is. It's also the idea of like having an endurance practice, an endurance training practice that I think leads you to these outcomes. So I've chosen running, and I think it's a great place to be, but there, you can do it with so many other things. Like the point is, you commit to something that you want to see happen, in this area of movement, and then you work towards it regularly. So you put it on your calendar, like you said, you make sure that you are doing it regularly. And even the times that you don't necessarily think you want to, that you show up anyways. Obviously, like if you need to rest or you're sick or something, like I'm not saying like push through, like, and have lots of consequences. But the reason that a coach is so beneficial is because of the accountability part of that process. Because when you know that you're going to be reporting back and saying, oh, this is what I did today or didn't do today, or this is what it felt like, this is, what I was dealing with when I did it. I've had many days recently after I've run the 40 miles and I'm now training for a different race, where I felt just slow and sluggish and tired, and it's been harder than usual. But I have someone to share that with, and she's there to encourage me and to give me feedback and to say, well, maybe try this, or let's switch this up, and having that person along that journey, I think, is also really, really helpful. And that also transfers to entrepreneurship, right? Like having people around you that can help you be accountable to the goals that you've set and the milestones that you want to reach is really, really important.
Right. In terms of milestones, Kristen, what would be the best approach? Because it's so difficult when you say, oh, in 2 months' time, I want to prepare for the marathon, but it's still not really actionable point, right? What kind of actionable points one should consider when they prepare for a big goal?
Yeah. So with any big goal, but especially like something endurance related for sport, you have to know what you're going towards, and you have to kind of work backwards and figure out the different things that you need to do each day to reach it. So this is true for any goal. If you're just like, I'm going to do this thing, and then you try and set out and do it without having measurable milestones to reach, it's going to be a lot harder. Like being specific about what you are doing and where you're going is incredibly important. So, You need to be able to say like, and for me, the coaching is what is so huge for this, because when you have a coach, they're kind of helping you do that. In fact, they're kind of doing that for you. Like in terms of a running coach, they are the person that's like planning out each week for you. This is what you need to run today. This is the cross training you need to do today. This is the strength training you need to do today. Right. And so that's set up. And then I just have to go and do it. And that makes it a lot easier to incrementally reach those milestones along the way. But it is incredibly important, I think, one, to really kind of be as specific as possible with those milestones as you're working towards a bigger goal. And then to have the accountability, which, you just talked about, but have those people around you that are checking in, that you're saying, hey, guess what? I did this, right? So you can have accountability partners. You can have a person like a coach that's, you're kind of accountable to. You can be in a group setting and find accountability that way. There's lots of ways to do it, but it is crucial. It is crucial to reaching your goals, whether that's running or business or life or anything.
Kristen, I have to say, there is lots of supporters coming here. I hope you're gonna explain to me, because I'm not quite sure what the meaning of it is. William Richard says, or pickleball.
So William shows up often on my running posts and relays his sentiments about pickleball, because that's his thing, is pickleball. So it's in case you don't know what it is, and I don't even really know what it is. I mean, I do, but I've never played it. It's kind of like tennis, like a smaller version of tennis on a smaller court. I'm sure he's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is not at all what it is. But think about tennis, think about it being a little bit more, I think, active, because it is a smaller space, and you've got, you play with I think it's a smaller racket. So for him, his sort of journey, from what I can tell, is around using pickleball as something that can benefit your life. Again, awesome. And so he'll get on my posts and make sure that I remember that pickleball is also an answer.
William, thank you so much for expanding my knowledge of sports I didn't know existed, because I'm Eastern European, and what do I know? Just soccer and some tennis, and that's it. So, jokes aside, Kristen, I wanted to ask you, did you treat this idea as your kind of niche to promote your other business, or is it your core business? How do you make money?
Oh, isn't that a great question? My post today on LinkedIn was about how I constantly think about money and how I constantly feel like, it's just a big challenge for me. But so I have I've invested a lot of time and energy in marketing and branding. And so I've helped lots of people with their personal brand and trying to understand how to communicate who they are and what they do in a way that feels really good to them. So that's kind of like what I was doing, with most of my time and energy for a long time. And I still do that. And I do it for companies, and I help founders, find a voice and a place especially on LinkedIn. That's kind of my preferred platform. So the RunROI is, a newer endeavor for me, and it's something that I want to grow over time and kind of evolve as it comes. I recently got my certification as a running coach through the RRCA, Road Runners Club of America. It's kind of the gold standard for run coaching certifications. But so I got that because I want to also be able to coach people in this way, because I think that we can combine the running coaching and the marketing coaching or the business coaching. So I think there is a lot that we can do around sort of like talking about marketing while talking about running, and like how you grow and the ideas that you come up with and how you talk about yourself or sell yourself or market yourself, and kind of like incorporating that into the running area. So, so I'm working towards figuring out all the different things that RunROI will entail. I would like it to be accountability tools. I would like it to be coaching. And I also I'm a very visual person, and I've used a lot of different generative art tools and graphic design tools to come up with some cool designs that I'm going to be releasing for clothing around the idea of endurepreneur and runpreneur, which are like phrases that I like to use and to talk about folks who are, using endurance or running training as part of their entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, I love these. I hope you got a patent for these names, or I suspect you came up yourself with these terms, entrepreneur and runpreneur. That feels like I'm doing it every day, and there is no ending. All these milestones still ahead of me, and more to do. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. And the endurepreneur, actually, I have to give credit to Brett Harrison, who is a friend of mine from LinkedIn. He is an endurance athlete who creates all kinds of sport experiences in Tanzania, where he lives with his family. And I had posted about this idea of running an entrepreneurship, and he he said endurepreneur, and I thought that was really great. So I'm definitely giving him credit for that. But I do think it's, it feels like the right fit. Like when you're an entrepreneur, you end up also being someone who is good at endurance. Like you have to be, because it can be a longer process, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur and you're doing everything on your own, right? Like we don't get into business as a solo entrepreneur usually because we want to own a business. We want to do the thing that we're really good at, coaching or writing or whatever it is. And then we also have to learn how to run a business. We have to learn what it looks like to market and to grow our visibility and brand ourselves and sell. So I think those are all things that, resonate. And and I think it's like, as long as you're an entrepreneur, it's an endurance event that just goes on and on. So I think it fits.
So, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges for entrepreneur?
Oh, just continuing to show up, the resilience, the tenacity, okay, that didn't work like I thought. I have to be agile. I have to pivot. I have to be um, willing to accept that it maybe didn't work the way I thought and then try something else. And this whole mindset of the growth mindset over, a not growth mindset, where when something doesn't work quite like you hoped it would, that yes, you're allowed to feel down and feel kind of like, man, that stinks that didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but that you're able to really pivot and say, okay, well, I'll try this instead and we'll see how that works, right? And we'll just kind of keep going. And I think, keeping showing up is going to make sure that you are successful. Like you can't be successful if you don't keep showing up. So it's a really important thing. It doesn't mean you can't take breaks. It doesn't mean that you can't, pause or regroup. But I think to be an endurepreneur, it means that you have that resilience and that you use it regularly, and you have to work, you have to cultivate it ongoing, which is why I think running can be such an asset to you as an endurepreneur.
It's beautiful, Kristen, that you used really focused on mindset, not really on the outside condition. Let's say, you break your legs or there is bad weather. So, what then?
Exactly. What then? Well, I think, again, it's about pivoting, and it's about saying, okay, we've now reached this situation. So what are we going to do about it? Like what's the change that we have to make? What are we going to incorporate instead? Or how are we going to shift? It's always about staying nimble, staying agile, being willing to shift and change and show up however it is that you need to show up. If your legs no longer work, then you find a different way to show up. And I have MS. So I, have had bouts of time where I've had parts of my body that don't function as I would like them to. And it's hard, and it feels like a setback, and it feels just like a challenge to try and overcome those things. But I really think they end up making us stronger.
That's really interesting, Kristen, because I didn't realize that you're suffering from MS. How is it impacting your goals overall?
Well, for me, one of the things that's helped me the most is my running, because it keeps me grounded. It relieves stress. It keeps me active. It increases my lung capacity and my, capillary beds and my mitochondria. It keeps my immune system better. It like reduces my inflammation. So it's huge for me. And right now I'm in a place where everything is working as it should. And my MRIs have been consistently stable for the past couple of years, which is awesome. And my neurologist is, very, our focus is like, we want to keep you, in the same state for as long as possible. So I take medication and I take care of myself. I get sleep, I hydrate, I fuel. Those are terms we use a lot more with like the running stuff, but I eat what I need to fuel my body, and I move and I challenge myself, and I just, I think this will also help me in the event that I do have a setback, that something stops working the way it should, or, I have numbness again, or any of the things that can happen with MS, which are sometimes unpredictable and yeah, can really affect your life.
Well, thank you very much for sharing and openly talking about it, because not many people realize that patients with MS are quite often advised to run. So well done, Kristen, for promoting and for sharing your struggles with us. Now we have a couple of comments. Natalie Lanto: how can inspiring entrepreneurs realistically integrate running into their busy schedules? Are there any specific strategies or resources you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we are so busy. I have 4 kids. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a dog, and, life, right? So I think honestly, the biggest situation, or the biggest like advice around this, is to commit, because you're going to make room for it. We make room for the things that are important to us. That's just how it is. Like, if you'll notice, I'm sure there are things in your life that maybe, other people who are similar to you wouldn't choose to do, but you do them because you love them or because they're important to you. So I think some of it is just committing to a practice of running, because when you're committed to it, you're going to create the time. Also, you don't have to run for hours and hours and hours to get the benefit from it. So I think too, there's an idea that, you can take 30 minutes, you could take 15 minutes and go for a jog, and it would still really benefit you in a lot of ways. So I think that's part of it. Some people, I think another good idea is to really work with your physiology. And what I mean by that is, know yourself well enough to know when you have the best times of the day for energy, for ideas, for creativity, and then like harness that for when you want to run. Use that time. Like, I do better in like mid-morning and early afternoon. So that's when I like to run, because those are the times that I feel, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to get it done. And while I'm doing it, I'm having a ton of insights. I mean, a ton. I will come back and write down. So sometimes I'll stop in the middle of my run so I can take notes on the things that are coming to me. And you can imagine, like, that's an important practice for an entrepreneur. How often are we stopping the noise of it, doing this, answering this, dealing with this, in order to spend some time without a screen, without being bombarded, so that our brains can do some work, can do some really awesome creative problem solving. So I think it's, some of it is like realizing and understanding like how beneficial it can be to your life, to your work, and then making the time to do it in that way.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Great question. Another question from IPO of it. In Patrick's opinion, that would be my husband. Um, he's asking the loneliness of the long distance runner, doubtless a parallel I missed previously in this discussion was entering airport security. There you go. That's just his running joke. Now let's go back to ROI, return on investment on running. So, what is your current relationship with running? How often, and what's your strategy, or what's your goal
Mhm.
for your running?
So I've been a runner my whole life. It wasn't always, and I talked about this online the other day. It wasn't always a pleasant thing for me. It was a means of trying to control myself and my body for the longest time. But when I set the goal to run 40 miles, a lot changed because what I really wanted to do was something that I wasn't sure I could even do, but I wanted to try. And setting a big goal that I have hope that I can achieve, but I'm not like, it's not like a in the bag kind of thing was a big deal. And so I took the steps to get there and then I did it. And honestly, the process of getting there was the thing that taught me so much. So when I went to do that, I don't know that I thought too much past that. I'm not a very long-term thinker. So I knew, the longest term I had was those like 10-ish months that I was training. And I knew that I wanted to get to the 40 miles. I wanted to do it. Well, and a lot of people were like, oh, so you're probably done now and you're just going to like chill and whatever. But that's not how my personality works. So I got to the 40, did it, realized what I was capable of, even far more than I ever thought that I could do, and decided like, okay, what are we doing next? And, I think that's an important part of reaching goals and setting goals. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep striving. You have to keep finding that bigger goal to set and to work towards, because that's how we continue to grow. It's how we continue to do big and amazing things. We're not going to get to that big and amazing place if we don't set big and amazing goals and work towards reaching them and then meet them and then do it again. So for me, then now I am training for a trail marathon that I'm going to do at the end of this month, or at the end of March. And then I want to do 100K this year, probably at the end of the year, which is around, I think, 62 miles, something like that, 64. So that's another big goal. And then I'm saying this out loud for everyone to hear, but I have thought about trying to do the Moab 240 in 4 years. So that gives me some time. I need to do some longer distance before then, but that's essentially 6 days of running through the desert. 238 miles total. So it's a big deal. But I think for me, the way that I approach this is I set the big goal. I get accountability for it. I put it on my calendar for when I'm going to complete it, working with my physiology, knowing, okay, I don't feel like it right now. I'm going to push it off till later when I might feel a little more energized. All of those things, pivoting all the time, right? And then I show up for myself because I know that I have to be accountable to my coach and myself. I know that I'm going to fill out my accountability form when I get done with my run. I have these things in place that keep me accountable and consistent to the thing that I'm doing.
As Patrick says, endurance and indeed the power of just turning up. Excellent points, Kristen Tippit. So 6 days running through the desert. Which desert did you choose, or is it some specific desert that everybody goes through that?
Yeah, so it's called the Moab 240. So it's in Moab. I think it's Utah. So it's mountainous and desert, and it's all different terrains. But I've seen some ultra runners who have done it or are training for it, and it is a team endeavor. Like, people think of running as like an individual sport, but you have to have such a community around you in order to persevere. Like, what I did in running 40 miles, I would not have been able to do had my husband not been on board and my parents not been on board. I mean, I wouldn't say I couldn't do it, but it was made so much easier because the people in my life knew that it was important to me and helped me get there. They helped me by cheering me on. They helped me by showing up for me and getting me what I needed. Or, especially on the day, I had different people running with me at different times during the day. I ran for 7 hours. So that's, a long time to be running. And I had, the right snacks, and I had folks there giving me things to drink and showing up and cheering me on and sending me messages. So all of that, I think, is just like, it's priceless. And if you're, in anytime you're going to do something big and hard, you got to get your community around you. You've got to get the people involved in your life who can show up and cheer you on.
I believe also with such serious endurance, I would recommend probably visiting a doctor to get a proper assessment of your health, because pushing too hard or ignoring rest can lead to injuries and burnout. So definitely, if you can't afford a coach to check your progress and measure your blood pressure and so on, it's best you seek medical advice before you run ROI. Now, Kristen, as we are heading towards the last 15 minutes of our show, I wanted to ask you, who is your role model? You mentioned a couple of entrepreneurs who set up Endurepreneur, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else who is setting a high standard for Kristen?
Oh, that's a good question. So I do have a dear friend who has been just amazing, and she's an entrepreneur. She is a spiritual coach and entrepreneur. She's a very soul, just like a beautiful soul. And her name is Mathilde. And you can find her anywhere, but she helps people kind of figure out how to live their life on their own terms, and especially especially when it comes to work and kind of escaping this idea that you have to do things a certain way, you have to work at a certain type of job or for someone else, that there are other ways of doing it. And she has been someone that's been a huge support for me, and just like an amazing human. And there are so many people. I have to say, LinkedIn has been a place very unexpectedly that I have come across some of the most incredible and amazing humans all over the world. Right. And it's been a place that I've been able to build relationships, grow a business, meet people, network, exchange ideas, share, and all of that has meant everything to me. I mean, it has changed my life. And so I do recommend finding those places for anyone who, doesn't have that kind of community, because it's really invaluable. But yeah, entrepreneurs, throughout time, there's been a lot that have really, impacted me. I think one of the questions you asked me ahead of time was someone that I could meet, or have breakfast with. I don't know if you're going to ask that question a different time, but I'm happy to share about that.
Absolutely, let's go for it. Where would you like to have that breakfast, and who would you be? Who would it be?
Yeah. So what I said in my response, there are a lot of people that I would like to have breakfast with. But someone that I recently learned a lot about and feel like is just incredibly inspiring and amazing is Madam C.J. Walker. And if you don't know who she is, she was probably the first self-made millionaire woman in the US that was a Black woman. And she was born into slavery, but then, when slavery ended, became a lot of different things before she ended up creating an empire around hair care for women of color. And she's tenacious. She's against all odds, against everything that was happening at that time, and the way she, where she was born and everything that happened to her as a kid, where she came out of that and what she was able to build, and the way that she sold it and the way that she marketed it and talked about how important feeling good about ourselves is to our lives. And that is being her central sort of marketing message. but she also empowered so many other women to get into business and to learn how to sell and to learn how to be a part of her empire. So it was like a very, it had such a ripple effect on people. And I just think that's incredible. And I would love to just be around her. Like, what was she like? What was her vibe? And, she must have had just the most amazing energy and confidence. And I would have loved to sit with her and hear about that and just be around her.
Fantastic. Let me just check. Madame C.J. Walker was living between 1867 and 1919, so that definitely put things in perspective over a century ago. To build an empire like herself was quite incredible. Thank you very much, Kristen, for bringing her into our discussion, because I've never heard of her. So it's definitely someone we want to publish soon. And I believe Natalie, who's in the background working assiduously in the production, is already taking note of that next role model. Now, Kristen, just a question: where would you choose a location to have that private breakfast?
I just said like in a garden somewhere warm, because I don't know. I like sitting outside. I'm a big fan of outside. I'm a big fan of not being freezing cold. So just like a beautiful garden somewhere where it wasn't too muggy and or humid, and there were lots of beautiful flowers and plants. I'm also a big fan of plants, and I grow a lot of different things at my house. Well, you can see behind me, I've got an orchid that's about to bloom back here again, which I'm really excited about. And then, I have a bunch of succulents and other plants. So it's a pretty important part of my life. So I'd love to just do that.
Well, I'm surprised that you wouldn't like to take her for a run, but whatever. Nature is definitely a great idea. We encourage everybody to go out, but for now, stay another 10 minutes of our discussion, and Kristen is going to answer some questions in case you still have something pending to ask. I mean, in the meantime, Kristen, what is the number one book you wish you read it before you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So what I answered here was the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. She is a phenomenal writer and human. And she talks about sort of this journey that she had on becoming untamed. We grow up, especially as young girls and women, being taught how to be tame, how to live within certain rules and standards. And this is how you behave. This is what it looks like to be a woman, to be a female. And so I think, there's a lot of just confidence in this idea that you can become untamed, that you can really kind of break free and do things as you need to do them on your own terms. And I was going through a journey of that for myself when I first read the book. I think having had something like that book much earlier in my life just would have meant that I could have maybe gotten here a little faster. But also, you are where you are when you're there. So it's okay. But I do think it's a wonderful book. Everyone should read it. Not just for women, honestly. I've heard several men who've also enjoyed the book. I think it's really about just finding out, who you are and really claiming that and living your life for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kristen. I've got a couple of questions that Racy brought to our attention. ROI is like a secret recipe. Everyone claims to have the perfect formula, but in the end, it's all just a matter of taste, Laura White said. And then, since you mentioned your plants and your love for plants, ROI is like a plant. It needs constant care and attention, or else it withers away faster than you can say budget cuts. So yeah, Guyan says. So, Kristen, we like to also quote Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, women are like tea bags. You never know their true strength until you put them in hot water. So, in life, how is Kristen like? How are you brewing?
Oh yes, I'm always brewing. Oh man. Yeah, I would say just given the nature of the life that I've chosen and built, which doesn't always allow me to do everything I want to do. Because of having small children. So I have 4 kids, 11, 10, 8, and 3. So still some pretty young ones. And I think that creates a sense of hot water for me often. It's like I have to continuously practice my parenting, not only of my kids, but of myself, because as we hopefully know, we can't really be the kind of parents we want to be to our kids unless we have done that for ourselves or have been parented in a way that we love. So that takes a lot of effort, and it also challenges me all the time. Not only do I have 4 kids that are fairly young, they are also all along the spectrum of neurodivergence. So I have ADHD, I have autism, and it's a beautiful thing because their brains are so amazing and incredible, and they look at life very interestingly and differently a lot of times. But it's also a big challenge because our society, especially here in the US, is not set up for divergent brains. And so there's a lot of advocacy that has to happen. There's a lot of conversations. There is a lot of building relationships with other adults in their lives that I have to do in order to kind of make sure that they can be successful. So that's a lot of where I'm brewing. And then, of course, just the constant work of building something beautiful that you want to have in your life. So building a business, building yourself, and continuing to grow and use that hot water to really kind of make the most delicious tea you can think of. And it will change too over time. So
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it's the recipe that constantly changing, as we quoted the secret recipe. Everyone claims to have the perfect formula, but in the end, it's all a matter of taste. Kristen, now it's the question of the century we like to always ask, which is your life lesson quote, and how did it change you?
When you asked this question, I just immediately, for some reason, thought of Bob Marley and the song, Don't Worry About a Thing, Every Little Thing's Gonna Be All Right. I love his music. I love reggae. I love just the vibe. But I do think there's a lot to learn from even just that kind of simple idea. Like, every little thing is going to be all right. No matter how big or how hard we think something is, it's going to pass. It's going to change. It's going to morph. It's going to evolve. And we're going to find an okayness in it. We may not be the same. It may not be the same okay as we were before, maybe a different type of okay, but we're going to find our version of okay again. Because, and I know this to be true because I've seen it in my life over and over again. I've seen it in others' lives. I've seen it in my kids' lives. I've seen it all over the place. So I do really believe that. And I think I'm continuing to learn how to surrender and accept things as they come. I'm not great at it, but I'm working on just doing that more and saying like, okay, this is what it is. It's going to be okay. And just trying to stay kind of in that mindset.
Absolutely, the universe has a secret message. We sometimes just don't understand it in a time, but it needs a little bit of brewing to actually get to the answer. Now, Patrick has another comment as he's running late to the gate. Another awesome, inspiring. I Beata, thank you so much. Kristen Tippit, I am feeling inspired running to my gate now. Seriously, great show. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Patrick, for your comment. Thank you, Kristen, for great and amazing answers. And it's such a great show to have because I didn't know what to expect, but there you go. This is what happens when great networking happens, ladies and gentlemen, because if it wasn't for Nora, who was our previous guest on our show, Nora Dinuzzo actually liked your post, commented on your post, and I thought, wow, this is something that I've never heard of, running ROI, and I need to invite you. So, Kristen, great show. Thank you very much. I would like to invite everyone for the next week. We are going to be joined by Anne Leberhoff Wolf, and we're going to talk about early stage investing 101, what you need to know. Next week, Wednesday, as always, 6 p.m. CET, 12 p.m. EST. Join us. But in the meantime, I would like to thank very much to our great commenters and question givers, Amber Hollowell, William Richards, Natalie Lanto, IPO in Patrick's opinion video. And that's it from the show. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone. That's, as always, great time to summarize that positivity quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look harder. As Kristen said, sometimes the universe is telling us something and we have to look harder for answers. And finally, as Maya Angelou says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Thank you very much for production, Rashley, Natalie, and Racy. And once again, Kristen, good luck with your running goals.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you.